Capital Views is sponsored by Northrim Bank, Alaska Oil and Gas Association, ConocoPhillips, and Linden.
Hi, I'm Tim Parady with the Alaska Legislative Digest, and welcome today to Capitol Views, and a special welcome to Lisa Parady, Executive Director of the Alaska Council of School Administrators. So, Lisa, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me today, Tim. It's great to be here.
Lisa, there's a lot going on in education this session and a lot of challenges schools are facing, but I know there's also positives out there. I mean, you've been involved in some of it. Maybe you could talk with us a little bit about those, what some of those things are.
Yeah, I'd be glad to. Our association, the Alaska Council of School Administrators, is a 50-year-old private nonprofit, and we are an umbrella organization. And so we represent all superintendents, elementary principals, secondary principals, school business officials, and the host of educators who are serving our children across the state. And one of the things that we've been engaged with that I think is very positive, given the crisis that we're in terms of retention and recruitment, is focusing in on kind of the pipeline, really, from aspiring to retention with each of those membership groups. So, by way of example, we run aspiring principal cohorts to support those teachers or others who may want to be a school principal. We, in each of our cohort situations, we focus on professional development, and we focus on professional learning. And I think really importantly, we tie them to a mentor or coach, so that we can be growing the leadership for these positions in an effort to fill our own. We also then run a 2-year program for new principals, so in their first and second year. And then we do aspiring superintendents, and then we do a 2-year new and incoming superintendent program. And then our programming for folks who are in those roles are, is very focused on professional development specific to those roles. So we've seen tremendous results in terms of retention of individuals who are participating in those various programs. And we really have been creating them, and I think making them very specific to the Alaska experience, as we've seen this tremendous rise in turnover and difficulty with recruiting educators, across the board. So I think that's one of the really positive things we're doing, and one in which we're seeing very good results. In some cases, we are the Alaska Council of School Administrators working with each of our affiliate organizations, are doing it, just internally. And in some cases, we're partnering with the Department of Education and Early Development on some of our programming. So we're grateful to DEED for that. Another thing that we do that some folks may not be familiar with, we also administer what's called the Alaska Staff Development Network, and we're the largest provider of professional learning to all educators, including teachers. We hold the largest conference in the state. With our dwindling budgets across the state, people aren't really able to travel out of state for professional learning. So we bring the best available in the country, in some cases in the world, to Alaska, so that our educators can avail themselves of the best and highest quality professional learning. So a couple things that we're doing, really trying to support our members.
Lisa, there's so much focus on teacher turnover and teacher retention, but these issues are the same with superintendents, principals. I mean, it's no different. So maybe you could, if you have any sort of stats in hand as to what the turnover has been in some of those groups.
Well, I think we have, been tracking that kind of turnover and working with various groups such as ICER and Northwest Regional Education Lab to look at it. But what we know is that the turnover rate in Alaska is much higher in our most remote and rural areas. And so, like with principals, we have gone from, say, a 38% annual turnover in our most remote and rural areas to a 31%. Now, that's still not good in terms of turnover, but I feel like the programs that we're doing are really focused on trying to retain those folks. And that's also, I think, some of the policy areas that we're focused on is how do we best support not only teachers, but teachers and all educators to stay in Alaska. And it is, I think, really important for us to do so, because when we stabilize school districts, we know our student outcomes are better. And that's what we're all focused on. Our highest priority is increasing student outcomes. Of course, our greatest need is education funding in order to do that. But we're very focused on what do we do to stabilize school districts so that we are able to focus really exclusively on how best to serve our students.
Lisa, the university has an education teacher training program. Are we
Yeah.
getting some new kind of grow your own recruits coming out of that? I know it's not enough to fill the gap, but are there some coming out?
There are some. They feel, I think, about 30%, which leaves a huge gap. And I admire the work they're trying to do to increase those numbers. We're working with them to also do that. We all have a lot of foreign teachers that are coming into Alaska to help fill that gap. And I think that combined with our, efforts for retention, um, the governor's task force on teacher recruitment and retention really said the highest things that we could do on the list. Their study said have competitive salaries and a retirement system. So those are two areas based on the governor's task force results that we're very focused on for all educators, because that's been shown to be what it's going to take to keep our people here.
Yeah, just touching back on the university programs. Did I hear 30% uh,
That
of
is my
teachers
understanding.
graduating?
Yes, yes,
So they are filling 30% of the gap.
that is my understanding. Yep.
That's not bad. I mean, we've got a long way to go, but uh, more power to them, and
Yeah.
hopefully we'll see more more people coming out of those programs.
That's our hope too. I mean, we are looking at the PK through, post-secondary continuum, and we all have to work together, I think, to be able to grow our own and support that quality recruitment and then retention. I mean, that we know those are the keys to stabilizing school districts, and that's the key to increasing our student outcomes. So I think we're all pretty focused on that together as a bigger system. Um,
So, Lisa, do you know just offhand how many teachers we have to recruit each year to fill vacancies and deal with turnover? Just a
I
kind of number.
I don't want to say a number. I know on a case by case basis across the state, those numbers are huge. Districts are in a continual cycle of recruitment now, and that includes our large districts. We're really, really struggling with special education. Uh, those slots are not being filled at a rate that we need them to be, and some of our other high need areas. But even some of our most basic, like elementary teachers were struggling to fill. So it looks different by district, but please know that every district is really struggling to fill all their positions. And so that number's high, but I'd hesitate to put an actual, because it's a moving number also, right?
I
Because
understand.
we're constantly turning over. So
Well, Lisa, thank you for joining us. This has been interesting, and hopefully we can continue the conversation.
I'd love that, Tim. And thanks for your support to education. You always did such a nice job reporting, and we appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Lisa.